The girl and the locked room. The door had been locked for as long as Mira could remember. Not nailed shut. Not broken. Just locked, quietly, deliberately, as if it were holding its breath. Every house had secrets, but this one seemed to revolve around that single door at the end of the hallway. It stood there in plain sight, painted the same dull white as the other doors, yet it felt heavier, darker, as if it absorbed sound instead of reflecting it. Mira passed it every day, her footsteps slowing without her meaning to, her eyes always drawn to the small brass keyhole that never seemed to change. She had asked about it once. Only once. Her mother's face had gone still, as if someone had reached inside her and turned off a light. "That room isn't for you," she'd said, too quickly. "Some doors stay closed for a reason." Mira had nodded, because children learn early when questions are unwelcome. But curiosity does not disappear simply because it is denied. It grows quietly, like roots under a house. At night, the locked room felt closer. The hallway stretched longer in the dark, shadows pooling near the base of the door. Mira would lie in bed listening, convinced she could hear something on the other side. Soft movement, maybe breathing, maybe just the old house settling. Still, it felt intentional, as if the room knew she was listening. On her 16th birthday, something changed. She returned home from school to find the house empty, unusually silent. No music from the kitchen. No hum of conversation. Just the faint ticking of the clock in the living room. On the hallway table sat a small object that hadn't been there that morning. A key. It was old, its metal worn smooth, resting on a folded piece of paper. Myra's heart began to pound before she even touched it. The note was short, written in her mother's careful handwriting. "You deserve to know. But once you open it, you can't pretend anymore." Mira stood there for a long time, the key cold in her palm, the locked door waiting patiently at the end of the hall. Fear whispered at her, urging her to leave it alone. But something stronger pulled her forward, an ache she hadn't known how to name until now. The key slid into the lock with a soft click that echoed louder than it should have. The door resisted at first, then slowly creaked open, releasing a breath of air that smelled like dust, paper, and something faintly familiar. The room was small, untouched by time. Sunlight filtered through a single window, illuminating shelves stacked with boxes, journals, and framed photographs. The walls were lined with sketches, portraits of a girl at different ages. Some were smiling, some were crying, some staring straight ahead with eyes too knowing for a child. Myra's stomach tightened. Every face was hers. She stepped inside, the door closing softly behind her. On a desk near the window lay a thick notebook, its cover cracked with age. She opened it carefully. The pages were filled with entries written in a hand she recognized immediately, not her mother's, but her own. Dates stretched back years before she remembered anything clearly. Stories of a childhood she didn't fully recall. Moments of anger, fear, confusion. Repeated phrases appeared again and again. They say I forget. They say it's better this way. They say the room keeps me safe. Myra's breath caught. Memories stirred, fragmenting through her mind. Raised voices, the sound of breaking glass, the sensation of being led gently but firmly down the hallway. A door closing, a lock turning. The room wasn't hiding something from her. It had been hiding her. She moved deeper into the space, fingers brushing the spines of journals, the edges of photos. One frame showed her standing beside another girl, older, protective, her arm draped over Myra's shoulders. The girl's face was scratched out, carefully, deliberately. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Mira turned just as the door opened again. Her mother stood there, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, grief etched into every line of her face. "I hoped you'd wait," she said quietly. Mira held up the notebook. "Who is she?" Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. "She was your sister," her mother finally whispered. And this room is where the truth waits when we're too afraid to face it. Mira didn't lower the notebook. Her hands were steady now, steadier than she felt. The word sister echoed inside her head, colliding with memories that refused to settle into clear shapes. Her mother stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind her with a quiet finality, as if acknowledging that once opened, some doors could never be shut again. "I didn't forget her," Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone made me forget." Her mother nodded slowly, pain flickering across her face. "We both thought it was Mercy." She moved to the desk and sat down heavily, as if the weight of the years had finally caught up with her. "Her name was Ellen. She was older than you by 5 years. Fierce. Protective. She loved you more than anything in this world." Mira stared at the scratched-out photograph again. The outline of the girl's arm still curved around her younger self. The gesture felt familiar, safe. "Why erase her?" Her mother swallowed. "Because losing her nearly destroyed you. And watching you relive it every day nearly destroyed me." The truth came out slowly, like something long buried and fragile. Ellen had been the one who watched Mira while their mother worked late. The one who walked her home. The one who promised again and again that nothing bad would ever happen to her. Until one evening it did. An accident. A moment no one could undo. Mira remembered the sensation before the memory itself. The cold panic, the screaming that never seemed to end, the unbearable guilt of surviving. She remembered locking herself in this room afterward, refusing to speak, refusing to eat, refusing to exist in a world where Ellen no longer did. "She begged us to let her remember," her mother said, voice breaking. But every memory sent her spiraling. Doctors said it was trauma-induced amnesia. They said letting it fade might save her. Myra's chest tightened. "So you locked the memories away, along with her." Her mother nodded, tears slipping free now. "We told ourselves it was protection, but protection turned into silence, and silence became a lie." Mira looked around the room again, seeing it differently now, not as a prison, but as a vault. Every journal, every sketch, every photo was a piece of herself that had been hidden, waiting patiently for her to return. She opened another notebook at random. This one was filled with drawings. 2 girls holding hands, standing under a tree, sitting on a bedroom floor surrounded by toys. The lines were rough, emotional, desperate. At the bottom of one page were words written in heavy strokes. "If I forget her, I forget myself." Something inside Mira broke open. She sank onto the floor, pressing the notebook to her chest as sobs tore through her. Not the quiet kind she'd perfected over the years, but raw, uncontained grief. Her mother knelt beside her, arms wrapping around her tightly, both of them trembling. "I don't want her erased," Mira said through tears. "Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts." Her mother held her, nodding. "Then we remember together." The days that followed were heavy but honest. The locked room became a living space again. They opened boxes. They read journals aloud. They cried. They laughed at stories of Ellen's stubbornness, her bad jokes, her endless determination to shield her little sister from everything. Mira felt the memories settle, not sharp and overwhelming, but grounded. Painful, yes, but real. And real meant whole. One afternoon, Mira stood alone in the room, sunlight warming the floor. She removed the scratched photograph from its frame. Carefully, gently, she replaced it with a new one. 2 sisters smiling, faces clear and unhidden. The door to the room remained unlocked after that. Sometimes Mira sat inside when the weight of remembering felt heavy. Sometimes she left the door wide open, letting the past breathe into the present. She learned that healing wasn't about forgetting pain. It was about carrying it without letting it define the limits of who you could become. On the night she finally slept without fear, Mira dreamed of Ellen standing in the doorway, smiling softly. You remembered, her sister said, and for the first time, Mira woke up feeling complete.